This video doesn't need an introduction. It's Wednesday, the day after a game, and with the pressure mounting on the Commanders, I am not holding back with these hot takes. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Command Show. My name is Grant Mitchell, and we're here to discuss another week of hot takes. This is a weekly series that comes out the day after games. We are all still reeling from that loss against the Bears. Jayden fumbled the game away, 3 turnovers, no takeaways, tackling issues, another poor start, coach is under fire. All of that is true. All of that is what's going on. It's what we're dealing with. And largely what I'm going to be addressing with some of these takes in this video. Before we get to that, though, guys, make sure you do hit the like button if you enjoy the content. To the people who were in the live stream yesterday, that was a lot of fun. Hoping to get back to that pretty soon. But I don't want to take up too much of your time because really this could end up being a long video. I really don't know how it's going to go. I just know that I'm fired up about these. So I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get into the hot takes.
A bigger miss than believed.
So Terry McLaurin's not producing on the field because Terry McLaurin is not on the field. And if you want to tie that back to him not coming to the preseason in shape after the contract situation, you're more than welcome to do that. Well within your right to do that. What I am going to say about this is Terry has been the team's #1 leader for years. You remember that big Lions game, the win on the road in the playoffs as 10-point underdogs? It's Terry giving the speech. What they gonna say about your name? What they gonna say about your reputation? I know what they gonna say about mine when they turn that film on. That Terry McLaurin, the spark plug, the lightning in a bottle. That Terry McLaurin. Well, he wasn't there all offseason. He wasn't there to mentor the younger players. He wasn't there to instill that feeling in his teammates. He largely hasn't been there this season because he's been injured. And when he was there, I get it. The crowd is chanting, Terry, Terry, Terry. Was he making the plays that warranted those? Like, think of an NBA game when a player goes to the free throw line and they get the MVP chance. Did Terry do anything to warrant those, or was that just the fans kind of saying, "Hey, Terry, look, we're still here for you. We support you"? The answer is the latter. Terry was never out there making these huge momentum-churning plays on the field. I never saw Terry look death, or in the NFL equivalent, a loss. I never saw Terry look a loss in its face and say, no, I'm going to drag my team out of this. I never saw Terry doing those things that he had done throughout his entire career before. So is it possible that during those contract negotiations, whether you want to blame Adam Peters for taking too long to get it done, whether you want to blame Terry for being unrealistic with his demands, is it possible that during all of that, that leadership was lost and you're seeing the effects reveal themselves on the field? I certainly think that's possible. Offensively and defensively, I don't see the same fight from this team that I did a year ago. Sure, there are individuals, okay? Javon Kinlaw is battling, although he's a new arrival. Deron Payne is still battling. Even though Bobby Wagner is frustrating people, Bobby Wagner is battling for the most part. Jayden Daniels is battling. Bill Krosky-Merritt is battling. But are you seeing it universally? Is the whole team buying in with that mindset? I don't see it. If you feel differently, feel free to go to the comment section and let me know. Now, on top of Terry's leadership, how about just his play? The Commanders this season, they've had 6 opening drives. They have 1 touchdown on those drives. That's their only scoring drive as well. They have 1 interception. They have 4 punts. They're averaging 2.3 points in the first quarter. That is 31st in the NFL. That is worse than the Cleveland Browns. It's only better than the Tennessee Titans. Compare that to last year. The Commanders in 20 opening drives had 5 touchdowns, 5 field goals. So they scored on half of them. 3 turnovers on downs, which means they're at least in position, in scoring position, but they're probably thinking, no, we don't want a field goal. We want a touchdown. And then they had 7 punts. So that would be punts on 35% of drives versus on 66% of opening drives this year. Their first quarter scoring last year, they were 5th in the NFL with nearly 6 a game. So Terry's leadership, Terry's actual production, both big misses for this team. Chris Moore was wide receiver 1 on Monday Night Football. Chris Moore led the team in receiving yards. He was out there on the first play. When the team was in 13 personnel with Ertz and Bates on the field and George Fant as a tight end, guess who it was as a wide receiver? Guess who was the only wide receiver on the field? Chris Moore. Noah Brown plays a part in this too, but Noah Brown didn't sign a 4-year massive extension this offseason. Terry McLaurin, you've seen the lack of leadership reveal itself in the way that the team doesn't come out prepared. They don't really fight all that much, and they're not producing at the same level they were last year. So this is the coldest take of the video because I feel like you can still argue the other side, but I also feel like there's a very good argument to this.
Bobby Wagner won't be back next year.
So Bobby's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. They can't do nothing and just show up with him back on the team. They would have to offer him an extension. Now, the first question is, does Bobby Wagner want to continue playing football? Sure. But after that, Bobby's making $9 million a year. If you're Adam Peters, you got to be brutally honest here. Bobby is getting worse. We can see that. He's not the worst linebacker in the league, but he does have clear deficiencies. The run defense, still good for the most part, although it was bad against the Bears, and Dan Quinn called him and the rest of the linebackers out on it. But the pass coverage stuff, it's just terrible. It is. He's just old. I said this in the live stream last night. When players get old, they retire from sports. That's not because they're bored of it or they don't want to do it anymore. It's because they physically can't. Bobby Wagner physically cannot cope with pass coverage at this stage of his career. He's taking 200 snaps in coverage, 33 per game. He's allowed 2.5 receptions per game. The 35 receiving yards per game he's allowed is the 4th highest in his career. His 1.04 yards per coverage snap is the 2nd highest of his career, and the 13.8 yards allowed per reception is the highest of his career. There's obvious diminishing returns, and teams are targeting him. They are generating big plays by infiltrating his zones or matching him up in man coverage. What happened on the rail route to Bijan Robinson? What happened on the vertical route to Tucker Kraft? What happened on the crossing route to Trey Tucker? What happened on Monday night when Olamide Zaccheaus dropped the ball? It was a dead play because he dropped it, but he was matched up with Bobby. Bobby didn't have the speed to stick with him, and if he catches it, it's the easiest catch in the world. It's in a 20, 30, 40, 50-yard game. It is a big explosive play, and it's a direct result of Bobby Wagner not having speed. And when Frankie Louvu is your partner, if that was Zach Bond, if that was Edgerrin Cooper, if that was Divine Diablo, if that was someone with real speed and real coverage ability, sure, it would look a whole lot different. But when speed and coverage instincts are the weaknesses right now of your two linebackers, and you only exclusively play two linebackers at one time, you have a problem. You have a problem. So this is my question. Why would you call Jordan McGee, Joe Witt Jr., why would you call Jordan McGee the best defensive player at training camp if he can't get on the field when there's a clear need? If you're Dan Quinn, why call Jordan McGee an awesome linebacker if he can't get on the field when McGee has speed, your defense doesn't have speed, and you need speed? You know what you have right now is not working, yet you're not making any changes. So the reason I don't know if Bobby Wagner is going to be back next year or not. I know that we are at a point where Bobby should not be on the field for 100% of snaps, and he should not be the long-term plan. The reason that I can't make this a hotter take is that I don't know that the coaches or the front office are willing to move on from him. I'm not taking away from Bobby's leadership and his intelligence and his run defense and things like that, but he is not a perfect player, and alternatives should be sought, especially with Bobby being 35 years old. I just don't know that the decision makers have the courage to do that right now.
You can't trust these coaches.
This is really picking up where I left off with the Bobby Wagner take. You can't trust. You just can't trust the things that they say. It feels like everything is lip service. Dan Quinn, I talk about his soundboard. Push this button. Oh, he's a dog-ass competitor. Push this button. The way we get down is not for everybody. Push this button. We're going to use the run and hit style. Push this button. We got to produce the ball. Push this button. We're a band of brothers. The way we get down is not for everyone. It's the same thing over and over and over and over again. And then Joe Witt Jr., credit to him for taking accountability because he does say things like, I need to do a better job. I need to put the guys in positions to win. Sure, but he is also guilty of that. Push this button. I love the way that they run and tackle. Push this button. We have to produce the ball. Push this button. The ball is life. Well, when you tell me all of these things and you have a defensive-minded head coach, we're in year 2. Nobody knows how to tackle. That maybe Bobby's the only one. Other than that, The team can't tackle. How after 2 years have you as a defensive head coach and a defensive coordinator not taught them how to tackle? Why do you constantly preach to me the ball is life? We need to produce the ball. Turnovers are how you win games. The offense with a rookie quarterback does a phenomenal job of protecting the football, Monday night notwithstanding, and then the defense just seems totally incapable of it. Either the coaches are not doing a good job of putting the players in positions to succeed, they're not doing a good job of communicating and training them on the practice field, or the players aren't good enough. It's one of those three realities, yet nobody seems willing to address it. Nobody seems willing to call it out. And I get it. They're obviously going to protect the locker room. Sometimes they're going to fall on the sword, but we are at a stage where it's enough. We're a playoff run, and 6 weeks into this tenure, we see the consistent patterns. We know that things aren't working. It just is frustrating, man. Yeah, I watched the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh. Everybody says this is an offensive league. You need an offensive guru, and that would be fun. Okay, but I look at the Chargers, and Jim Harbaugh comes in, and he immediately gets their defense to be one of the best in the league, and he's now doing it for the second straight season. Mike McDonald, speaking of Jim Harbaugh, goes from working with him in Michigan, goes to the Ravens, immediately gives them a historic defense, gets hired by the Seahawks, and immediately the Seahawks defense is great. They've got one of the best run defenses in the NFL, and their corners doing such a good job that Tariq Woolen is now expendable. They've got practice squad guys becoming legitimate contributors. So it's possible for a defensive head coach to, I don't know, maybe make the defense better. And sure, the run defense looks better this year, but the passing defense has arguably been worse. How do you draft Mike Sainristil? How do you draft Trey Amos? How do you trade for Marshawn Lattimore? How do you sign Will Harris? How do you go through these steps? And then right now, the secondary looks worse than the one with Benjamin St-Juste and Emmanuel Forbes and Michael Davis. I get it that some of the numbers are better. For example, they're 7th in completion percentage allowed. That's great. But despite that, they're 29th in yards per attempt. Those two things don't go together, but it's because they allow the highest yards per completion in the NFL. They're almost a full yard worse than the second worst team, which is the Bengals. Think about how pathetic their defense is. The Commanders are allowing over 12 yards per reception. On 3rd and 4th down, their pass defense has been terrible ever since this regime took office. Said that like they were political figures, but they have been terrible on 3rd and 4th down on the back end. What isn't a running down? What isn't a passing down? I saw this in a comment a couple of weeks ago. I was talking about winning on running downs to have the right to rush the passer on the passing down. What isn't a passing down? If the opposing quarterback gets any sort of time in the pocket, if the defensive line doesn't generate pressure, everything is a passing down. 1st and 15 is a passing down. 2nd and 7 is a passing down. 3rd and 2 is a passing down, because the defense is going to give you big plays. They will always keep the other team in. And then when they can't tackle, you see Quan Martin completely botch it against DeAndre Swift. And that, I've thought about it more and more. Jayden Daniels handed the game to the Bears, sure. But Quan Martin, if he makes that tackle, all the defense has to do is just hold him out of the end zone on that drive. And they probably have a chance to do it. The Bears still got to drive at least 50 yards to get there. If Quan Martin makes that tackle, you can't cover. They can't tackle. It just feels like we go into every game expecting the defense not to help the quarterback. Why does Jayden Daniels have to constantly bail his team out in the 4th quarter? Why does he constantly have to play at an MVP level? Why can't the defense help him one time when this is a defensive-minded head coach with a good defensive staff with talent on the defense? I'm not going to act like there aren't limitations, but let's also not act like there is no talent on this team. Is it a coincidence that Sainristil looks worse than he did as a rookie? Is it a coincidence that Marshawn Lattimore looks worse than he did at any point in his career? Is it a coincidence that you've got other players regressing, that Quan Martin looks like he's regressing, that Frankie Louvu looks like he's regressing? You tell me.
Over my dead body.
With the general tenor of the team, especially coming off of the Monday night result, with Jayden correctly taking accountability for the fumble, also having thrown an interception on the first drive of the game, It's time for him to just take over. Say, I don't care if you give up 7 points. I don't care if you give up 40. I'm going for 350, 400 total yards. I'm going for 3, 4, 5 touchdowns. Put this game on my back. I'm carrying us to victory. He might have to do it without Terry McLaurin. He might have to do it without Noah Brown. I don't know if Sam Cosmi's going to be back or not, but this has to get done. This team needs a source of life, because if I'm going to loop this back to the Terry McLaurin take right at the start of the video, I don't see this team having the belief it did last year. I don't see this team playing as hard as it did. I don't see this team producing those moments of magic. And coming off of a loss, short week, on the road, probably going to be America's game of the week, I would assume. Division rival, arch nemesis. This is a chance to save the season. If you fall to 3-4 and your next 3 games are at Chiefs on Monday night, short week against the Seahawks in primetime, Lions, if you lose this game, what record are you expecting the Commanders to have in those 3? 1-2 at best, maybe even 0-3. But if you go out there and you score 40 points and you make this team, fill this team with belief before they go on the road to play the Chiefs, and you win that game, think about the difference that exists. But it all starts with this particular game. Now, I was just talking about how it's unfair, how this team has constantly heaped all of their expectations on the Jayden's shoulders. But you know what? That's the reality we're in. You cannot trust this Commanders defense to win games. You cannot trust this Commanders defense to make the big plays when you need. Think about even when the Bears got the ball after the fumble, 3rd and 5, they give up a completion to Colston Loveland for 6 yards, move the chains. They get him to 2nd and 12, and then they allow an 18-yard run to DeAndre Swift. That ensures the Bears will be able to kill the clock. Ensures they will get a better field position for their field goal attempt. The defense does not make plays. They don't make the winning time plays. They don't make the winning time plays that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. and Cliff Kingsbury love to preach about. Not that Cliff runs the defense, but point being, everything's got to go on Jayden's shoulders in this game. I want to see a masterclass against the worst defense in the NFL. The Cowboys are 28th in success rate, 32nd in EPA per drop back. Terrible. They allow the most passing yards per game, 270. They allow the second most points per game, more than 30. They just gave up 30 points to the Panthers last week. Justin Fields had 309 total yards and 2 touchdowns the week before that. That's the same Justin Fields who had 45 yards on Sunday. The same one who had 45 had 309 against the Cowboys. We've seen Jordan Love cook them. We've seen Caleb Williams cook them. We have seen Russell Wilson cook them. Jayden Daniels is better than all of those quarterbacks. I don't give a damn. Jayden Daniels is better, all of them. So go on the road, save the season. I've seen people in the comments saying the Commanders have no hope of making the playoffs. Betting odds will tell you they've got about a 33% chance you lose this game. You probably are pretty close to no chance, especially with all of the tiebreakers you would have lost. You would be 1-4 in the NFC. Go out there, get the job done. And Jayden, not that I think you look for other people to carry you, but dude, go in there assuming it's you against the world and go score 40 points. Leave no doubt, leave no stone unturned, kick the Cowboys' ass.
The Commanders aren't good right now.
The hottest take of the video right here. The Commanders are not a good football team right now. They're not. Don't lie to yourself. Do they have the potential to be? Of course. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Their defense last year, if you include the run game part of it, also teams better at generating pressure this year. As bad as the defense is, that's a lot of the back 7 stuff. The front 4 has improved since last year. The defense is better than it was last year. So get Jayden playing back at that level, and this can still be a very good team. However, what we have seen through 6 weeks of football, the back 7, specifically the secondary, Trey Amos not counted in that, pretty miserable. Word is now out on how to beat the Commanders with the run, thanks to Ben Johnson. Horizontal gap scheme runs, lots of side-to-side stuff. Exploit the lack of speed in the middle of the field and make Mike Sainristil get down and dirty in the box. He's not big enough, not physical enough to do that. You see DeAndre Swift have his first 100-yard rushing game of the season and his first 100-yard rushing game since the last time he played the Commanders. The word is out. Put Jalen Holmes, put Preston Smith, put Frankie Louvu on the edge and see if they can set it, because they can't. They're not those types of players. That's not what they're good at. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Dietrich Wise was supposed to be there. Javonte Jean-Baptiste was supposed to be there, but injuries took their toll, and they're not. And the word is now out on how to beat the Commanders. They can't start a game playing well. In 4 of the last 5 games, they have fallen into 10-0, 10-0, 13-0, and 14-0 holes. 4 of the last 5 games. They can't force turnovers. Your best receivers aren't on the field. It's not a good team. It simply isn't. Now, I get the offensive line has looked good in spots. Bill has been really good leading the running game. Jayden Daniels is Jayden Daniels. The defensive line has improved. They're not an awful team, but they are not a good team. 500 is a fair reflection of that. Win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. What are the chances of making the playoffs moving forward? Their schedule, we all know we've got at the Cowboys this week. Like I was talking about, the 3-game stretch after that, at Chiefs, Seahawks, Lions. Be honest with yourself. What are you hoping for during the stretch? We're hoping for undefeated. Okay. What are you hoping for that's realistic based off of what you've seen? I think the biggest optimist could say 3-1. I think most of us would say we're hoping for 2-2. And at that point, you're 5-5. Your schedule at that point, you've got the Dolphins in Spain. International games are always scary. I call them the great equalizer because you can never know what to expect. You host the Broncos, who have a pretty incredible defense, at the Vikings, probably the most well-coached team in the NFL, at the Giants. They're a little resurgent right now. And then you've got 2 and 3 weeks against the Eagles with the Cowboys coming to town in between them. The Cowboys beat you at home last year. I know everybody remembers how painful that was. So if you're 5-5 going into the final 7 games, and we're looking at that thinking, okay, well, if we get a couple of wins here, we go 4-3, that puts you at 9-8 on the year. You're not making the playoffs with that. You might not make the playoffs at 10-7 because you don't have tiebreakers against the Falcons. You don't have tiebreaker against the Packers. You don't have tiebreaker against the Bears. And there are plenty of other NFC teams up here that are coming up that if you lose to the Cowboys, that's a lost tiebreaker. If you lose to the Seahawks, if you lose to the Lions, if you lose to the Eagles or the Giants even, these are all teams that right now that look competitive. The thing about the NFC, there's nobody that's really the class of the NFC. Maybe you would put the Lions there, but then there are like 12 or 13 teams that are competitive. And you could get to the end of the year and they're all in contention to make the wild card. And the Commanders right now, they're already behind the 8 ball, not having those tiebreakers, and they're going to lose more games. They're not going to go undefeated. So that's going to be more and more tiebreakers lost. So it's a bad position to be in, and the team is just not good right now. And that's where we stand with the hot takes this week. Guys, we have arrived at the end of the video. If you made it all the way through, do me a favor, hit the like button. Make sure you go to the comment section as well. Leave me your thoughts on all of the takes, or if one stands out to you. If you have a hot take that I did not mention here, please feel free to put it in the comment section. If there are any good ones, I'll pop them up, or I will at least discuss them in an upcoming video. Make sure that you have subscribed. If you're new around here, to the returning viewers, appreciate you guys. As always, look, I'm frustrated with the team. I'm not digging for things to unfairly call out. I'm not digging for things to be toxic about. But I am going to address the shortcomings of the team. I am not going to lie. I'm not going to act like, oh, this is sports and things happen. Yeah, that is true, but things don't just happen because they happen. Things happen because this went wrong, so we need to correct that so we can be better and then do that. And that's how we win games moving forward. That's where we're at with this team right now. So I'm not looking for faults in them, but I am looking at it fairly. I'm looking at it objectively. At least I think I am. So again, leave me your thoughts on the comment section. I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Appreciate all of you joining me as always. And I hope you have a great day. I'll catch you in the next one.